I want to first thank all of you for coming tonight. Boy, it's been since 2019. Keystone's a family. We're family and friends, and the generous support of all of you attending and sponsoring and commitment to this organization, it allows us to do our work. We had a terrific board meeting today and talked about how important this event is to Keystone. It's with the dollars raised, it's our only fundraising event. It's with the dollars raised that we are able to invest in seeking out projects, the work that Keystone does best, bridging the divide around the intersection of policy and politics so that we can focus on outcomes that are sustainable and lasting over time. And we couldn't do that without all of you. So I want to thank everyone here. Please, give yourself a
There
please.
we go.
But at the same time, it has been just amazing to know that we're back together again in one place of like mind, missing each other, and having the ability to celebrate. Having the ability to think about what's really important. What Keystone does best is think about making change in a meaningful way through collaboration and that interchange. And they've even perfected being able to do it remotely. But overall, they're looking at what we can do to make policy changes. What can we do to make steps forward?
But I will say that I've been very moved by the stories that I've seen when I visit communities around the country. There's a place called Lanier Park in Philadelphia where it was the epicenter of racist violence in that city for decades and generations. And finally the police got so frustrated they decided to close off the park that had been the site of a lot of that. 4 acres of beautiful space in a tightly packed neighborhood, and they just put up 10-foot fences. But when the community got together, and we were fortunate to be able to be there to help them, and said, let's figure this out. The black side of the park and the white side of the park actually sat down together. By the way, it took them 2 years of work to sit at the same table. But what happened was they decided on what they wanted, and we helped them, the city helped them build it, and they decided to create a unity trail, and they walk it together every week, and it's such a symbol of what's possible. And I'm excited about all the places I see that happening. I'm thrilled to be working with Keystone and Ernest House, to be talking with Native American tribes about how we can bridge some of the differences and repair some of what's happened in the past. So I'm optimistic about what's possible, even in these very, very difficult times.
Indy, I'm enormously honored to accept this award on behalf of the team members which you just referenced, particularly for the movement of these incredible vaccines that have taken us out of this incredible travesty of the COVID-19 pandemic. So when the new Pfizer and Moderna vaccines were first brought out in the fall of 2020, naturally the U.S. government, under the remarkable and competent leadership of General Perna of the U.S. Army, he came to FedEx and UPS to move these very important medicines that had to be moved with virtual perfection overnight. But we had a little small device, the SensaWare device, that we put on the packages that allowed us to see them in real time. This allowed us to see each and every package as it moved through the FedEx system. And our team members were just so proud to be able to deliver these vaccines. In fact, we delivered the very first one in Boston, Massachusetts from Grand Rapids, Michigan overnight at something like 5:30 in the morning.
Keystone is all about collaboration. Right. And you have a well-earned reputation in this town for collaboration, bipartisan, bicameral. And I think the question a lot of people get asked all the time in this space is, how do you do it? But I want to change it a little bit and ask, in an era where we seem to be highlighting divisions more than not, why do you do it?
You know, first of all, coming from Michigan, you know, we're pretty much about being practical and having common sense. And it's a lot more fun to work together to get things done, honestly. I mean, you know, you can stand up and yell about something and then have no sense of accomplishment at all. You know, maybe that lasts a couple of minutes. But the truth is, we've got a lot of big problems. And it's more gratifying to work together to get things done. You know, our state in Michigan, we make things and grow things. That's what we do. And I don't think you have an economy unless you do that. And I think people on both sides of the aisle care about that. And so when I work on electric vehicles or clean energy manufacturing tax credits in a bipartisan way, or when I'm working on writing the Farm Bill as the chair of the Agriculture, Nutrition, and Forestry Committee, which is way more than, the Farm Bill doesn't even touch it for folks who know. Largest conservation investment in the country for land and water, bioenergy, agriculture, food policy, and so on. But you don't do those big things unless you work across the aisle, unless you listen, unless you respect all sides. I work with folks on an issue that I then vote the opposite way they vote 99% of the time. But that's okay. You know, I think of the Flint water crisis. The chairman of the Environment and Public Works Committee was Jim Inhofe from Oklahoma. He and I don't vote the same, but he helped us on Flint. We would not have gotten the support to replace the Flint water pipes without Chairman Inhofe. And I'm very grateful for that. Roy Blunt and I work together on community behavioral health centers. We worked for 9 years now. And we think as part of what we hope will be some common sense gun reforms, that we're going to also include some really important investments around community behavioral health care, and that will be based on what Roy and I have been doing. And we don't vote the same all the time. He's a great friend, but we don't vote the same all the time. And so it's much more gratifying, though, to find, and my philosophy is, you need to agree with a person on one thing, get that done, and then you can go find the one thing you agree with somebody else on, and you can get that done, and then you can go from there. And so I think that's the best approach for me.
You know, one of the things that I did when I was in the role at FDA is talked a lot about when we were wrong, and you know, tried to show humility around the fact that we didn't always have all of the answers up front. We talked about what we didn't know a lot. And I don't think we did enough of that in the context of this pandemic. We didn't acknowledge when we were wrong and why, and explain why we made mistakes in judgment. I think we didn't acknowledge enough uncertainty when we were putting out guidance. And there was a lot of uncertainty along the way. And there was a perception, I was part of some of these discussions with the White House, particularly during the Trump administration, when I was talking more with the administration. There was concern that if you put out too nuanced of a message, it would be confusing and you'd be sending mixed messages. The original hesitation around telling people to wear masks was that, well, we're telling people they should stay home, and if we tell them they should wear masks, we're basically saying it's okay to go out if you wear a mask. There's ways to be direct with the public and explain these things, and I think too many people got caught in a box where they didn't provide sort of a fulsome description to the public for fear of confusing the public. And I think we sometimes, as public health officials, overestimate that. We take the public for granted. I think you can go out with a nuanced message. You can acknowledge uncertainty and still galvanize the public behind collective action. And so we should have been a little bit more trusting, probably.
How do you relax? How do you get this out? Because I talked to your dear wife earlier and encouraged her. Because sometimes too much news can be a little
I relax when I see what Keystone is doing right now.
There we go. Hey.
When I see what all of you are doing tonight and the important work that you're doing, and it's going on, and it's a beautiful, beautiful moment for me to appreciate the great work that people do, volunteers, and all the people that you're honoring tonight.
That's wonderful.
And I want to thank you, Shelby, for what you've done.
Keystone's work, as I shared, has never been more important. Bridging these divides is not impossible, but it's challenging. I believe more of our country is united than we see. And Keystone's work reflects those points of intersection, the nexus around where policy and politics intersect in a productive conversation moving forward. It's based in trust. It's based in an understanding and recognition of people's interests, and we believe sincerely that our work helps to better and improve our society, and the impacts of that will result in lasting generations, and that's why we do what we do.